Welcome to another one of my poll videos. And with Duelist of the Roses and Digimon World Dance Squad done and dusted, it's time to add some new stuff to the schedule. And I'm going to just combine everything into one massive poll instead of splitting up into Monday, Tuesday, on the grounds that, well, I figure that's the most fair way to do it. So whoever gets the most votes goes to Monday, whatever gets the second most votes is going to Tuesday. If there's some massive tie or something, I'll just make my own decision. I might roll a die, I might pull the name out of a hat, whatever it takes, I'll try and make it be random instead of necessarily my pick, but I can't guarantee I just won't go with whatever I think I'll like the most. Some of this stuff I've never played before, so a lot of it would be going in blind. Some of it I have, and I'll be probably not as good commentary-wise as some people would argue, because I'm so used to the games. But I guess we'll start off with the two Game Boy Advance offerings I'm willing to throw out there. Breath of Fire 2 and Fire Emblem The Sacred Stones. Now, with Breath of Fire 2, this is one of my favorite games, and I've played it multiple times rather extensively, so yeah, it may not make for the best commentary since it won't be a blind run. I'm quite aware of most of the story elements, though I probably will still be a condescending asshole about it. With Fire Emblem The Sacred Stones, I've experimented with Fire Emblem games before in the past, especially this one, but I've never gotten extremely far into it, so some of it will be blind, some of it will be familiar for me. I can't say I'm particularly fond of Fire Emblem games because you have perma-loss when characters die, so it's definitely not a game that really goes up my alley too much because of that, but I'm willing to toss it out there, so yeah, I may suffer to get through that one for you guys if people vote for it. I'll also throw up a few licensed games. Most of them didn't get votes last time. One of them did. But we'll start off with Dinosaur King, which honestly, I don't know if you want to call it much of a licensed game on the grounds that the game started out as an arcade game, then got translated into a TV show from what I understand, and then you have this game. As far as the combat goes, it's rock, paper, scissors, so it's a lot like the duels in Suikoden, or however you pronounce it. So yeah, I don't know how much people would really enjoy watching me play rock, paper, scissors for potentially hours on end in order to beat this game. I mean, I'm just going to throw out there that's how the combat system works, because I've experimented around with it for about the first, I want to say, 2 or 3 hours worth of content. Though a lot of that was grinding for myself, so you probably wouldn't see a good chunk of it. But it can be a rather grind-intensive game, because you got to constantly go looking for fossils for dinosaurs that can add into your paper or rock or scissor needs for your current dinosaur you're really building up to be a super dino. I'll also put Glory of Heracles back out there, or Glory of Hercules if you prefer, because they're the same character. This game starts off with Amnesia, and I've gotten probably about 4 or 5 hours into this one before, so a good chunk of the game would probably be blind. I'm not sure how long it is though, so for all I know, I've played I could have played anywhere from a fourth of it to a half of it. I just don't know. Like I said, I've only played part way through it, or partially, so I can't really be sure. It's also turn-based, if that's a preference for you. I'll also put Inuyasha back up there for the DS. I'm not sure how different this one is from the PS2 game, like I've said. It's also turn-based because I have played around with at least the first, 30 minutes or so. So I have seen some of the game, but not enough to really say I'm going in not completely blind for the most part. I'll also put Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief up there again, and I actually have played all the way through this one before, so I know the combat system can be rather easily broken if you know what you're doing, especially with Haste and Annabeth's special ability, which allows you to quickly fill your super attack gauge. So yeah, the combat might become rather stale if you watch me play it after a while, because I probably will end up deploying the same strategy over and over and over again as soon as it opens up. I'm going to openly admit that. I'll also throw out the option to potentially revisit some games, though I have to admit I'm not particularly fond of throwing out one of them. I'll offer up Lost Magic, and this isn't the one I really would dread revisiting, because at least it's an interesting game with being it partially RTS, partially RPG. It's a rather interesting fusion, in my opinion. What I'd really dread to revisit would be Master of the Monster Lair, because it's a rather slow-paced game about building a dungeon. As such, many of the episodes would probably end up being me just building dungeon layouts and just laying them out, or there'd have to be massive skips in between episodes because I'd have to work on getting the dungeon boss released for that floor, which can be rather time consuming. And let's face it, there's only so much time in the day I really can spare to I can dedicate to grinding in this game and building up my character and stuff. So the game could end up being a lot of episodes with me doing pretty much nothing more than expanding my dungeon paths and stuff outwards, but not really accomplishing anything towards my main goal, which would really be painful to sit back and watch, I'd imagine, somewhat, because the combat's rather slow, like not My World, My Way. If you've seen me play any of those, seen any of those episodes, yeah. It has the same pace as its combat system. There's no skipping over animations and stuff, so it's rather painful to sit through with how slow paced the battles are. It drives you insane if you're doing a really long push through a dungeon, because some of the dungeons I like to design require you to go through the entire floor in order to get to the boss. Obviously, I wouldn't do that if I was revisiting it, because I'd leave an open path straight to the boss if at all possible, because that way it'd be faster to get to him and take care of him. But yeah, the dungeon would take a lot of time to set up. I'll offer to also revisit Witches and Vampires and Vampire Legends The Power 3 back to back. Witches and Vampires would be the first. I've done both these games previously, and they're, well, the marketing slogan attached to these games is just for girls, okay? So this would be a rather girly Witches and Vampire game, I suppose, some would argue. I'm sure there's male fans that like it. I can't say I'm a particularly big fan of the game, or games in this case, because they're rather mediocre titles in my opinion in terms of storytelling and gameplay mechanics, because you can use stat buffs and group attack to take out all your opponents at once if you're strong enough. It takes a while to grind out to get strong enough, but once you're strong enough, you can just slaughter your enemies, which would be something I'd really push for in order to deal with any of the group mobs that get in my way while I'm switching screens, because that's when you can get randomly jumped by enemies when you're going between maps. When you're visiting areas that are meant to be like dungeons and stuff, or areas infested with monsters, there'll be touch encounters, but for the most part, a lot of the encounters you'll get in this game are going to be grinding by going back and forth between two areas, which is rather annoying. Which is one of the things that really hurts the game, in my opinion. That and the storytelling, like I said, is not the best, in my opinion. There's stuff that pops up as plot holes between the first game and the second game, rather painfully. Like in the second game, they established that your mom is not a legendary, well-known broom racer who's won a championship or two in the past. But in the first game, they act like flying broomsticks is a legend, that they don't actually exist. So how can you not know that your mother was a championship broom racer at any time in your life that she never bring this up? Why would she not bring this up? You think flying on a broomstick would be like one of the most iconic things about witches, and you think they would know about this stuff. So why they're clueless about it, I have no idea, and it really bugs me when you go these games back to back. And then like I said, you have the combat issues, where if you get too strong, you can rather just easily wipe out enemies with minimal effort. And since you get all your MP and HP back between fights, it's not hard to just quickly push your way through your enemies and slaughter them wholesale once you get tough enough. I was going to throw up Lunar Dragon Song as a joke, because if you vote for this, you're horrible, horrible people, because I've already revisited this game. So there's no point in me revisiting it, because let's face it, I don't have too much more I can really say about this title, and I only revisited it last time on the grounds that the footage was stretched so horribly the first time I did it, which is why some of these games are being offered up there for a revisit, so they're less painful for people to look at when they watch them. So yeah, don't vote for this, seriously. I'd hate you. I really don't enjoy Lunar Dragon Song that much. I've adapted to its crap factor, but I really don't want to go back through it again. So if you vote for it, I'm not counting it. I'll also toss up James Cameron's Avatar, which is more of a Zelda-esque game, so it's more of an adventure game rather than an RPG. Basically, you can get points, which you can then spend on stat upgrades and stuff, but they're earned by killing monsters, so they're more like money than experience, in my opinion. I'll also put up Devil Survivor 1 and 2 from the Mega 10 series, but if I visit these, I'm going to be using a guide to get the best ending possible, probably, in all likelihood. I'm just throwing it up there now, so yeah, I won't be doing completely crazy blind run getting a crappy ending, because I hate getting the bad endings in games. So with games that have multiple endings, I'll usually end up wanting to use a guide right away, especially if I know there are multiple endings, like I know with the Devil Survivor games there are. I'll also put up Final Fantasy IV, The Heroes of Light, Final Fantasy Rings of Fate, and Final Fantasy III. I haven't really played... I've played around with pretty much all these games to a certain extent. Some more than others, so I'm not sure how much the game I'd have left for most of them, so I don't know how blind my run would be. And I can't say I'm the biggest fan of the Final Fantasy series in general, because I haven't had too many good experiences with it. Most of my time with Final Fantasy was spent with 13, which most people would argue is one of the worst Final Fantasy games ever made. Especially with all the videos I've seen hating on and criticizing about how it looks pretty, but it has no substance to it. It's all surface, as some would put it. I'll also put up Hoshigami Blue Earth Remix. I think it's the proper full title. It's hard for me to read without my glasses. But yeah, especially with such small print. It's actually a tactical RPG, and honestly, it's the only one I think we've gotten to so far. I don't have too many of those for the DS or previous handhelds, really. So yeah, I'll put that out there. Be warned, though, it might be a rather grind-heavy game, so you might see me revisiting towers and stuff to grind out items and stats and hopefully get better weapons by jumping people if I can. I'd probably also play it on normal difficulty, because I've heard on hard it becomes almost impossible to use melee characters in the game, because the magic characters and ranged characters hit you so hard from a distance that's impossible to get close enough to actually use your melee fighters. At least that's something I've heard people complain about online, at least, in reviews. So I'd probably stick to normal difficulty instead of going on a harder setting. I'll also put out Nostalgia, which is meant to be sort of like the Final Fantasy games and stuff. A rather nostalgic game with airships and all the usual things, you know. So, yeah. If you want a throwback to old school gaming, I suppose, that's why it's called Nostalgia. I'll also put up Rhapsody, a musical adventure, the DS port. Yeah, I know, it wasn't originally for the DS. This is an older game. I want to say, I can't remember what system it was for right now, though. I want to say it was PlayStation, but don't quote me on that. I'm just trying to do that out of memory. Well, for GameCube games, I'll start off with Evolution Worlds, which is actually a fusion of two games. But be warned, it's not a very good fusion, because a lot of the story gets cut in order to fit all into this one tiny disc. So if you like the Evolution Worlds games for the Dreamcast, I don't advise voting for this unless you want to see how well they did butchering them together, because it's not very well done from what I've been told. And I have played through that entire game, so it wouldn't be a blind run by any stretch of the imagination, because I know pretty much everything that's going to happen in that game, at least somewhat up here, because I've experienced it before. I'll also toss up Beyblade V-Force, just because I have a Beyblade game for the GameCube where I actually could get footage for it, I hope. I'm pretty sure this would also probably be in 480, so it should work. But yeah, I don't expect really anyone's going to vote for Beyblade, but if you want, you can. I'll also toss out Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, which I don't know really anything about besides the fact it's part of the Final Fantasy series, and it's a series, like I said, I don't have the fondest memories of so far from playing, well, some of the worst ones. I'll also put up Lost Kingdom 2. I actually have played all the way through this one before, so it wouldn't be a blind run at all. I know it. I'll also put up Custom Robo, which I also have played all the way through, but I do enjoy playing it, and it does have a lot of robot fights, because that's basically what it is. Custom Robo, after all. I'll also toss up Skies of Arcadia Legends, I suppose is the full title. I think this is also another port game. I have to admit, though, I have played through like the first couple of dungeons in this game before, And if I do, I don't think I'll get a guide for this, because honestly, I probably would just go for the default trophy you get for being a battle fanatic, because that's usually what I go for anyway. Trying to hunt down every treasure chest and everything to get the best portrait doesn't really matter to me as long as I don't get the crappiest portrait. I'll also put up Tales of Symphonia, and I've seen probably about half of this game before. And if I play this, I'm going to be using a guide to make sure I get the best ending, because I know there's multiple endings for this game. Or at least there's a good and a bad ending. And I'd like to get the good ending if all possible, so yeah, I'd be using a guide if I revisit this. Or not technically revisit, it'd be a revisit for me for at least half the game or so. Then it'd be new territory. I'll also put up Yu-Gi-Oh! The False-Bound Kingdom, though I don't know how many runs I do through the game, because technically there's multiple storylines. And the game also has in-game button cheat codes you can use, which I've done in the past in order to make it easier to get past a lot of the early parts of the game, because otherwise you probably would have to grind a lot, so I might start an episode and then stop right in the middle of it, so I can then grind off my enemies while sitting in my base all nice and pretty. Yeah, I know. Because you can't, like, revisit maps and stuff. So, grinding out as many stat points and as much money as I can get my hands on so I can buy better weapons and stuff would probably be a necessity. So you might see me jump a massive amount of time in an episode if I can get away with it. Because some of them I don't think they really have a time limit. You can just go on for as long as you want. So I might be pausing and then letting the game run for a really long time. I don't know how well it would work if I did that, but it'd be something I'd probably try if I did it, because I don't like trying to win by the skin of my teeth if I can help it. Let's see. Well, I'm already working on the .hack games. .hack G I'll start on once I finish up the first series. I'll toss up Artlinko 1 and 2. I'm not sure how well interconnected these games are. It does look like they probably involve the same characters somewhat based on the box art, but I'm not sure. I haven't played really beyond like the first 30 minutes or so with these, trying to see if they worked in the system, so I don't know that much about them. I've thought about offering up Arc the Lad Twilight of the Spirits, but if I played that game, I'd want to use the early tournaments to completely break the game, and I'd rather not record a bunch of episodes where I'm just going through the tournament and then exiting out to get a stat boost or whatever, because that would be rather boring rather quickly. But yeah, you actually can really buff yourself like crazy in that game if you want to on the first tournament. You can get yourself a bunch of romantic earrings for the human side, which allow you to cast magic for free if you stack 3 of them on one character, which means you can make yourself pretty much impossible to kill, because you'll be both a high level by the time you get done collecting all those earrings on at least one character, and he can then do like a full heal on himself, and he can drop massive attacks on large groups of enemies for free. I mean, if you're willing to go that far, I guess more power to you, because you deserve to be able to win have a rather easy run if you're willing to put that much time into it. I've done Atelier Iris 1, 2, and 3, so there's no point in offering a revisit through them. I don't think anyone would really want to see me do that. I haven't heard anything good about Breath of Fire on the PS2. In fact, everything I've heard about has been pretty bad. Here we go. I'll offer up Chaos Wars, which honestly I've only played through the first map or 2 in this game, so I don't know that much about it, besides the fact it's rather chaotic, obviously by the title. Nah, I don't care for Code Lyoko. I tried that earlier. Tried that one time, it didn't go that well. Dark Angel's boring. I know it is, because I was messing with it for a while, and it's like, well, if the dungeon seeds don't go right, you can end up with a dungeon you can't actually finish, which can screw you so badly the game becomes unbeatable. I will toss out Dawn of Mana, though I have to admit I haven't played this one at all. And with my collection, you never know if it's going to work. I haven't tested some of these, so if you want, you can ask me to test it before you cast your ballot. If you want, because if the game doesn't work, I'm just going to have to move on to the next game in the list, I suppose. I don't really care to put those up there. Oh, I will put up Devil Summoner 1 and 2 up there. Yep, some more Mega 10. With everyone's favorite Private Detective. Radio. I'll also put up Digimon World 4, or as some people would call it, Diablo with Digimon, because that's basically what it is, I suppose, somewhat. Never watch out for V-Man. V-Mon, he's got gats, man. He's got gats. I know that game wouldn't work. That game cheats, so I'd have to have someone play with me, and it's a long game, so no one probably would. It's hard enough for me to get Tolfat. They promised to come over at some point so we can do Naruto Uzumaki Chronicles 2 together, much less do a board game that'd take 50-some hours. Nah, I don't really want to do that. Skip those. I will offer up Dynasty Tactics 1 and 2, though, since I have both. They're obviously tactical role-playing games, though how in-depth they are, I can't really tell you, because I've only messed around with, I guess, with the first map on one of them. They could be easy, they could be hard. I'll also put out Eternal Poison, the most gothic tactical role-playing game I've ever seen. Yes, the characters have a very gothic look and feel to them in this game, if you care for goth culture, I guess. I have done Falling Stars before, I will not do it again. Oh, I know. I'll put up Final Fantasy X, 10-2. I haven't actually played this one all the way through. I've probably played about through the first 30 minutes or so. And I've messed around for probably a bit more than that on 10-2. Probably the first couple hours. I've played through Final Fantasy XII, and I'm not putting it up there, on the grounds that I hated the game. With a passion. I will throw out Full Metal Alchemist 1 and 2 since I have both, and I don't know how likely I am to ever really play them outside of this kind of context. They don't interest me that much because I didn't really get too much into Full Metal Alchemist. I've seen quite a few scenes from Brotherhood, but again, it's probably not a series I'd enjoy that much. Or maybe I would. I'm sure some people argue I'm hurting myself by not seeing it. I'll also throw out Genji Dawn of the Samurai, a hack-and-slash RPG fusion somewhat, because you can get experience from killing enemies, which allows you to level up and become stronger. Though the secret to winning this game is largely to hold on to your essences for as long as possible, so you can use them as a instant full heal if you have to, if you run out of items. I'll also toss out Ghostbusters, the video game. Yes, it's the PS2 version. I don't know if that'll matter to people or not, but yeah, it's the PS2 version. I really only played to the first stage on the demo they had for the PS3, so yeah, it'd be a largely blind run if I did it. I'll also toss up Gladius, which I think where you take control of a team of gladiators and have to basically build the ultimate team in order to win. At least that's what I think it is. I'll also toss out Grandia 2, 3, and Extreme, but only separately. I don't know how well connected they are, and I'm really not that curious. I mean, if 2 and 3 are really closely connected and you think I should do both of them together, you can leave a comment if one of them wins. Grandia Extreme, though, can just go by itself, because I know it's completely different from pretty much all the other Grandia games from what I've heard. I'll also put up Grawl Enter Generations, but if these do get the win, I will be using a guide, because I know I'll need one to get the good ending on at least the second one, if not the third one. I didn't like Grawl Enter Heritage War when I tried it, so I'm not going to put it up there. I'm not going to play a game I know I'm going to hate from start to finish. I think we're pretty much done in this first binder. Oh wait, I'll also toss out the Inuyasha game for the PS2. Hopefully the PS2 and the DS games don't end up being the most voted for, because it'd be sort of annoying if they end up being very similar games. I'm covering 2 different versions of it on just 2 different consoles. But wait, there's more! Okay, I'll also toss up Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, and 1.5. I got all 3 of them, so yeah, I'll put out all 3 of them out there, because I don't think I'm going to play them otherwise. I've never actually played any of the Kingdom Hearts games yet. It's something I've pretty much avoided. That one I can't do because it's in 240p, and the Hog would not like it, which I'm quite aware of, painfully so, because I tried it. We'll put up Magna Carta, because I've heard it has a somewhat interesting combat system, but I don't know how much enjoyment I'll get out of it, but I'll give it the benefit of the doubt, considering it's got the Atlas label attached to it, and I usually like their stuff, so I'm willing to take a chance on it. I'll also toss out Mega Man X Command Mission, the Mega Man RPG. Yes, there's a Mega Man-based RPG. I've heard it's pretty generic, rather painfully so by some people, but I'll put it out there. I'm somewhat hesitant to put Metal Saga out there, but I will. I'm mostly hesitant to put it out there because it's a very open-ended game from what I've told. It's basically a sandbox RPG, so I'm not sure if there's any really clear endings to the game out there, and there's lots of things you can basically run around and discover while playing it. It also has one of the shortest ways to beat the game in history by basically choosing not to go on an adventure. That actually counts as a way to finish the game really fast. You don't want to go out and explore? Well, fine, don't. Game over. I guess I'll also toss up the opportunity to revisit Naruto Uzumaki Chronicles 2. That way I can unlock Sasuke and can finish him off in survival mode once and for all. He's the only character I haven't covered in survival mode. I just have been hesitating to do this. Like I said, I want to revisit it with Tolfact helping me out, but he never can seem to free up his schedule enough between school, his girlfriend, and work to come over to my place so I actually can get some of it done and start working on it. I'll also put out Okage, but I have to double check if this one works. So you might want to ask me for your vote for it if I've tested it for it yet, because it's on a PS, it's on a CD, so I'm not sure how high it is up on there I don't know what you want to call it. I'm not sure if it's a 480p game or if it's a 240p game that's converted into 480 or meant to look like a 480 game through tricks and stuff like that. Like the lot of Nipponichi software stuff, which is why I can't cover it on the system itself. I'd have to use an emulator to do those games and do it on my computer. I'm not revisiting Prism. I don't care what anyone says. I did my time. I did it once. Ah, yes, the fishing RPG. I'm not going to offer that one up. Rogue Galaxy, I think, would take way longer than I'd want to do for a game like this. I guess I can toss up Sakura Wars So Long, My Love, which I guess is a combination between a strategy RPG and a visual novel. So I can't speak to how much I'll enjoy this because, again, I don't really play visual novels. So it'd definitely be a different experience for me. I'll also toss out Samurai Western, which is a hack-and-slash game where you play as a samurai who's out in the Wild West trying to hunt down his brother who's forsaken the sword for a gun, which is going to make for a rather odd matchup, in my opinion, because let's face it, a gun beats a blade every time, pretty much, because bullets have much longer range and they're so fast you can't really block them with a blade, except in video games. While I have the other Shadow Hearts games, I'll toss out just 3 for this, because I've been told it's the most unique and it's the black sheep of the group. And I figured if I'm going to play for the Shadow Hearts games, I might as well start with the black sheep first. Why not, right? I'll also toss out Digital Devil Survivor. I actually have 1 and 2, don't worry. So yes, I can do both parts, though it'd probably take me a rather long amount of time doing it the rate I usually do it, let's face it. I'll also put out Nocturne, though I'm not sure how long it take me to do this. I might actually have to pull out a guide, considering it can sometimes have rather large and confusing maps, I guess. I'll also toss out 3 and 4, because I have both. Though now I gotta double check if this is a 2-disc game on 4, or if it's one of these is a sound disc. Side A. I don't know. Like I said, I have to double check. I think it's only 1 disc. I've covered that game not before. I've played it before, not covered it. Anything else that's really interesting in here? For me personally. I'll also put out Stella Deus, or how you pronounce it. A rather odd strategy RPG, which has characters that are rather apathetic. I'm hoping this game doesn't have any of the issues they might get with certain games, like I said, at the Hop Hog. I haven't checked all of these, which means if there's issues, I'll have to skip over to the next in line. Yeah. I'll offer to cover Suikoden 3, 4, and 5 as a group, just going through them one at a time. I've played all the way through 5 before, but obviously I'd start with 3, which I haven't played before. I'll be on like maybe the first 30 minutes or so. Then I got lost and gave up. Yeah. Hopefully I can do better if I'm recording. We can hope. I'll also toss up Tales of Legenda and Tales of the Abyss being just separate, because I really don't want to do a bunch of the Tales games really one after another. Though I have played all the way through Tales of Legenda before, though I've been told it's one of the worst ones, actually. At least by Tolfact. He's not a big fan of it. Let's see. No, I don't want to offer up those or that. Those are going to get covered eventually anyway, so no point. Oh yes, I'll also put up Xenosaga. Obviously this would mean doing the entire series, one right after the other, sort of like the Dot Hack games, because it comes in a series, it's a trilogy of games on 5 discs. But yeah, I'll put that out there. I think that does it, because I've already done East in the past, so I'm not doing it again. I've done it twice. The only way I can make it challenging for me for the 3rd time would be if I do it on the highest difficulty possible, which I can only get to through cheat codes, because the game constantly crashes when it goes through the end credits. Yeah, it's starting to get a bit iffy on loading as it was, so yeah. That's going to be all the options I'm tossing out there, and yeah, I know, it's a rather large list. Hopefully there's something out there for everyone that looks at the video. And yeah, I'm going to make a comment, try and get the first comment in, listing everything, as I just said in this video, to make it more convenient for people so they don't have to watch the entire video, because it's rather lengthy, isn't it? Till next time then. See ya.